Okay, so welcome everybody to this National Geographic Learning webinar. This is the 26th session in our professional development series. And as I just saw from the chat box, a lot of you have been to some of them before. For some of you, it might be your first or your second or your fourth or your 10th, but however many you've seen before, welcome. And we hope you enjoy it. This model lesson will basically, the aim of it is to sort of help you to get a good idea of what one of our programs is like, and you will learn teaching tips and ideas through taking part in the activities. We will be looking at a writing lesson for elementary level students. That is an A1 level for CEFR, and it will be set in the context of tourism. If you did attend the excellent webinar on Tuesday by John Hughes, he was using materials from Life, and this is a continuation of this. So there's a link to that webinar on Tuesday. I will also be using materials from our Life program for adult students. My name is Will Lashett. I am the teacher trainer Asia for National Geographic Learning. I'm originally from the UK, but I now live in Singapore. And I have been living, teaching and training in ELT in Asia since 2001. And while we're talking about teaching, I would like to do our first poll. So I just want to find out, we've got 114, 115 people here already. And I just like to really find out who you teach. Okay, so which segments do you teach? You can choose as many as you wish. It's multiple choice. So if you teach all of them, you can click on all of them. If you are watching on Facebook Live or on a recording, obviously you cannot vote in the poll, but you can see the options on the screen right now. Okay, so I always like to find out basically who I'm talking to, as that helps me to change slightly the delivery of what I'm talking about. As I'm sure you know, as a teacher, you need to adapt to the students, or in this case, the participants that you have in your classroom. So we need a little bit of information about them, or in my case, about you. Okay, so we can see I've got almost 70% have voted now. Let's try and get it up to 70%. 68. Okay, I'm not going to get there. 69. All right, close enough. Okay, I'm going to end the polling. Okay, and share the results with you. So you should be able to see on the screen now. So we've got 41% of you are teaching university students, and 40% are teaching teens. We've got 27% teaching adults, 25% teaching young learners, and 17% teaching very young learners. So the majority of you, if I add together university and adults, that's 40, 50, 60. So 68% of you are teaching either university and adults, and 40% teaching teens. So these are really the areas where the Life program we're looking at today would be most relevant, especially that university and adult segment. Although the teens and upper secondary would also be suitable for the Life program. 12% of you today not teachers. Okay, that's fine. Okay, maybe you're students or maybe you're administrators in your company. All right. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So today's lesson is from Unit 11 in the elementary level, or level 2 of Life. There are 6 lessons in each unit of Life, lessons A to F, and we are doing lesson E today, which is writing a questionnaire. I'm going to talk a little bit about something that John mentioned on Tuesday, which is about divergent and convergent thinking before we begin. So I just want to see how many of you can remember something from John's session. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about divergent thinking. And I'd like you to answer into the chat box, please. So John talked about divergent thinking. Yeah, the Pixar storyline. That's right, Lisa. Can you remember what he said? So for divergent thinking, he called it Big C. Okay, he called it Big C. And can anyone remember which of the 4 C's that relates to? So we often talk about the 4 C's, okay, in education. The big C, okay, reactive. Okay, reactive is not, okay, creativeness. Anjali has got it, right? So the big C he talked about, whoops, I revealed more than I wanted to there. The big C he referred to is talking about creativity. And if we had a box, okay, if we had a box, where would we be thinking with this big C, creativity, divergent thinking? Is it, yeah, Sterling's got it. Okay, so we would be thinking outside the box is absolutely right. Okay, and why do we call this thinking outside the box? Well, we call it outside the box because it's without restrictions or without limitations. So you're free, okay, to go in any direction that you wish. And when we're talking about divergent thinking, about creativity, thinking outside the box, our goal really, as John mentioned, is to generate or think of many possible answers or many possible solutions. So with creative thinking, there is no fixed solution, okay, and that is why we are able to think in this way, in this divergent way. Okay, so let's have a quick look at convergent thinking. I just need to get my chat box up here. Okay, here we go. So if divergent thinking is big C, then convergent thinking is small c. And which of the 4 C's is this related to? And Kathleen has got it. It is related to critical thinking. That is absolutely right. Okay, well done. And if we had a box, where would we be? We would be inside the box. That is right. And what do we mean by thinking inside the box? Well, as John told us on Tuesday, thinking inside the box means that we're giving some kind of limitation. We're giving guidelines, we're giving structure, we're giving parameters, okay? So we're defining the shape of the box, we're defining the area that we can think about. And what this also means, it means that we're talking about coming to a particular conclusion, finding a logical answer, or finding one particular solution. Okay, so this is just a summary, okay, of what the difference between divergent and convergent thinking is. We're going to come back to this at the end of the session. Okay, so I can see that all of you really remembered a lot, particularly about Finding Nemo and paper clips. Okay, so these are obviously very memorable examples. Okay, so we are going to move over now to our classroom presentation tool for our adult program life. So I am going to stop sharing and I'm going to do a new screen share and take us to the classroom presentation tool. So we often get a lot of questions about this. So the classroom presentation tool, or the CPT, basically what this is, it is an online, well, it's not an online, it's a digital version of a textbook. But it has lots of extra features like video, okay, like all the audio, all of the activities are interactive. So I'm going to use that today to look at Unit 11. Okay, and yeah, we're going to do some of the exercises from here. I'm just going to go straight in and have a look at this. So those of you who attended the session on Tuesday, you will recognize this picture here. I'm just going to move it down so we can see it clearly in the screen. And yeah, so John used this example, and he used it as an example of creative thinking. And he asked you, if you were there, why is this table in the middle of the desert? So I know a lot of you weren't there on Tuesday. So if you could just type into the chat box for me, we can see a table in the desert. Why do you think it's there? Let's have a few ideas. So try and use your creative divergent thinking. Okay, what reason could there be for this table to be sitting here in the middle of the desert in Jordan? Let's see if we can get a few ideas. Okay, so I can't see any ideas yet. Alessandro says, enjoying a tea break. Making a TV show, says Sam. Yeah, good idea. Okay, for the nomads who live in the desert. Sunbathing while picnicking. Enjoying the view because we're thirsty. Props for a photo shoot. For refreshment and rest for travelers. For a show. Okay, someone says it's good. Yeah, it is good. It's nice to have tea, right? Okay, so we've got lots of, lots of interesting ideas. Probably feels cozy to sit on the sand. It feels soft. Challenge for a show. A lot of people are saying for a movie or for a TV show. That's interesting. So I'm actually we're going to find out. So we've had lots of ideas there. I'm actually going to play you um, a very short listening passage. This is for elementary students, and we're just going to find out why. So it's a man on holiday in Jordan. Why was the table in the desert, and what happened? So let's just play this, okay? And I'd like you just to listen and find out why the table is there.
Track 101, Unit 11 Opener.
When I was 19, I took a gap year between school and university. I saved some money and then I went backpacking around the world. My favourite memory is when I was travelling in the desert in Jordan and I met some local people. They were called Bedouin and they lived in tents in the desert. They were very friendly and invited me for tea. It was a hot afternoon, but they put the table outside and made hot tea. We all sat in the middle of the desert, drank tea, and watched the sun go down. It was wonderful.
Okay, there we go. So it sounds like a very nice experience. Did anyone catch? So what's happening in this photo then? So who took it? Okay, why? What was happening? Culture, yes, it is. Okay, local people invited him while he was traveling. That's right, and he experienced a piece of the local culture. So he was backpacking, okay, around the world. The Bedouin people, that's right, Mark. Okay, they invited him to enjoy this tea on a hot afternoon, and they watched the sun go down, and he got this real piece of a real experience of local people sharing their culture, as Kirk said there. Okay, so that sounds to me absolutely wonderful, especially as we at the moment we can't travel, and I've been in Singapore for the whole year. So yeah, dreaming of this kind of experience is something really nice and something that I hope to be able to do one day. Okay, so yeah, we are talking about tourism today. So let's move on. Okay, I'm going to go and find the lesson that we're looking at. So we're going to do 11E, the questionnaire. Okay, so here is the lesson that we are looking at. So this is at the end of the unit, so students will have already had a lot of context, okay, talking about holidays, talking about tourism, and we're going to go in and we start off this lesson, okay, by talking about hotels. And what we're going to do first of all, we're going to have a look at different aspects of hotels. So we've got here, you can read them yourself. And the task that students have to do is actually to rank these or number them in terms of how important they are, from a good restaurant to things like car parking, internet facilities. Now, as we are online, okay, and you can't discuss with your partner, we're going to do this in the form of a poll. So I'm going to put the poll on the board, on the screen. The first question you'll be able to see is multiple choice. I'd like you to pick 4. So from these, what are the most important things for you in a hotel? Please choose 4 for the first question. And if you scroll down, I would like you to choose 1. Okay, so for the least important thing, I would like you to choose 1. Okay, so for the question 1, okay, multiple choice, I want you to choose 4 things. What are the most important things for a hotel? And for question 2, we are going to choose the least important thing, the thing that you really don't care about very much. Okay, and at the moment we've got about 30% of you have voted. And I hope we can get a few more. So I'm going to give you a few more seconds. Okay, this is quite interesting. Okay, at the moment we've got 56% of you have voted, 57%. Let's try and get up to 2/3, and then I will share the results. Okay. All right, that is close enough. All right, I'm going to end the polling there, and I'm going to share the results with you. Okay. Yeah, so interesting. So we can see that easily the most important thing to the people here today, 92% say that clean and comfortable rooms are the most important things. Internet facilities and friendly staff are second and third, 55% for friendly staff, 51% for internet facilities, and 58% a good location. So first, number one, clean and comfortable rooms, then good location, then friendly staff, then internet facilities. Okay, so these are the most important things. Okay, let me just make a note of these. Okay, clean. Okay, clean room. Location. Then it was staff, and then it was internet. Okay, and if we go down, okay, we can see that the least important one, or the least important two, we can see that car parking is the least important, and gym and swimming pool the second least important. So that gives us a very good idea. These two questions, it gives us a very good idea of what's important to you and what's not important to you. And I think that, that's quite interesting, because this is maybe not what I would have guessed. Good restaurant, 38%. I would have thought that would have been important, but I guess most people prefer to eat outside of the restaurant, perhaps. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing the results there and just get rid of that. And we're now going to go over and do an activity. So I'm going to do a new share, and we're going to move over to my Word document. So some of you may have seen me do something similar to this before. But basically what we've got here, we want students to compare, okay, the different elements of being in a hotel. So what I've done here is I've prepared a worksheet that I would give out, which is going to help my students to get the most out of this kind of activity. So let's have a look. So in the box here, we've got the 8 different aspects of staying in a hotel, and on the left we've got some sentences that they can use to discuss them. And I've got a kind of key here which we're going to explain before we go into it. So can you see these top 3 sentences? They have this symbol like an arrow going to the right. Can anyone guess for me, by reading those 3 sentences, these 3 sentences, what are they telling us about the first thing that we mention in that sentence? Okay, about the subject of the sentence. It's to do with importance. So these 3 with the arrow to the right, okay, what are they telling us? It is a comparison. It's expressing an opinion. Are they telling us that this first thing mentioned is more important or less important? Yeah, right. Okay, so that's why I've used a more than sign. Okay, so we can see these 3 sentences here, or 4 sentences, sorry. These are telling us that this is something that's more important, very important. Okay. So then we've got 3 underneath with the less than sign, okay, and these 3, okay, with the less than sign, we can see that these 3 here are the opposite. So these ones are telling us that the first thing we mention is something less important, something that isn't very important. And then at the bottom, we've got 2 sentences which have an equal sign. And if you read the examples there, what can we see about these equals sentences? They are telling us that both things are equally important, right? So this means that the 2 things I'm mentioning are equally important, or they are the same. So we've just got this simple key to help students understand, okay, the purpose of these sentences. Right, we've got 2 more things that I've put here. We've got the bits that are in bold here. Okay, the bits that are in bold, what are they showing us? So the bits in bold, we've got more important than, the most important, not as important as, less important than, okay, just as important as. Yeah, so basically the bit in bold, this is showing us the comparison. Okay, this is showing us, okay, the relationship between them. That's showing us the comparison. And lastly, the bit in red, okay, the bit that I've highlighted in red, what is this showing us? And Gay Marie, you're absolutely right. That is showing the opinion. So I've gone through, I've made this, took me, I don't know, 10 minutes to make this. And I've made this little key. Okay, and by using the key here, this is going to help my students understand the function of each part of the sentence, and it's going to help them to be more accurate when they actually come to make sentences. So what I'm going to ask you to do now, using the things in the box here, I would like you to type into the chat box a sentence comparing two of these things, or maybe picking the most important or least important thing for you, and please write that sentence into the chat box for me. Okay, so I want you to make a sentence about hotels. Okay, remember we're talking about hotels. How can you, what information can you give me about how important these things are for you? Let's see who's going to be first to get a sentence into the chat box. Here we go. So we've got some coming in now. We've got here, Indulika says, for me, car parking is not as important as a strong Wi-Fi connection. Perfect. What a lovely sentence. And to get an elementary student to make and to say a sentence like that would be very satisfying, I think. Venice says, I think friendly staff is more important than the location of the hotel. Perfect. Again, very nice sentence. Okay, so prioritizing service, very important. Let's have a couple more. I don't really care about car parking. Yeah, same for me, Mark, because I don't drive. I can't drive, so not important for me. Sam says, I think a clean and comfortable room is more important than car parking. There we go. Excellent. Another one, I don't really care about car parking. For me, a clean and comfortable room is as important as the friendly staff, from Hannah. Right. Perfect. So we've really, we want to show that these are perhaps the two most important things, or equally important. Clean and comfortable room is just as important as the friendly staff. Okay, great. And we've got lots of lovely sentences coming here. And actually, I can see all of the sentences coming in. They're all perfect sentences. They're all grammatically correct. Okay, they all sound nice. They sound natural to me. And this is something really important, because if we just say to our students, okay, I want you to compare these things, elementary level, that they're going to struggle to do that, and they're not really going to come up with a lot of a lot of good sentences on their own. We can of course let them try first. Okay, we could let them try, we could monitor, we could listen for the kind of mistakes they're making, and then give them some feedback on that. And then perhaps the second time we do the activity, we give them this worksheet, so that they can really make some accurate sentences. They'll have a record of this language, and yeah, and this is going to help them, help them with their fluency. So thank you very much. That was really good. I've got a couple more questions I wanted to ask you. Yeah, so if we look at these sentences here, can you tell me which of these sentences feels a little more formal, or a little more kind of perhaps higher level than the other ones? What do you think? If you look at those sentences, is there anyone that stands out to you as being a little more formal? Sentence 3, so we've got this one here, I'd rather. Okay, perhaps that one. Okay, so I'd rather have, yeah, and it would be good for us to point out to our students that this I'd, okay, this is short for I would. Okay, I would rather have. Okay, very nice. A couple of you put number 4, sentence 4. Yeah, so this one, without a doubt, is my top priority. I think this one sounds more like something we might use in business or something like that. Yeah, without a doubt is my top priority. I think for me, this one stands out as something you'd be much less likely to hear an elementary student say. But it's good that we can put that in. We can get students to say it. And we can add that in as a sentence. They can understand from the context, okay, what this sentence means. And which one, another one, final question for you. Which sentence shows that the speaker doesn't have a very strong opinion? Okay, so which one shows that the opinion is not very strong? And Arlene says, I guess. That's right. I guess, or I suppose. Right. So this one, we often use this phrase, don't we, when it's something perhaps we haven't really thought about before, something that is not particularly important to us, but someone's asked us for our opinion, so we're going to use this, I guess, or I suppose. I put both in. For me, I think I guess, although commonly used in American and British English, I think it's a little bit more common in American English, and I suppose I think is a bit more common in British English, although you can use in both. Yeah, so I just want, again, we can draw our students' attention to the difference in meaning here. So this one shows that your opinion is not so strong, whereas without a doubt is, obviously very strong, okay, very strong sentence. There we go. So using these sentence stems, okay, for our students to get the most out of a speaking activity. Okay, I'm going to go back into the classroom presentation tool. Okay, here we are. Let me just find it. Okay, here we go. And yeah, we're going to move on. So this is actually the activity in the book, and you can see there's not much for the students to go on, which is why I added in that extra activity there. So let's have a look at exercise 3. So now we're going to move on and have a look at a model. And I said we're talking about a questionnaire. So we talked about hotels. Okay, now we're going to talk about yeah, basically reviewing a hotel or answering a questionnaire. So let's have a look at the online questionnaire here and answer the questions. So first question says, why do hotels give this type of questionnaire to visitors? Why do they do it? So maybe if you could type into the chat box for me, what do you think? Why do hotels give out this kind of questionnaire? To improve their service. Arlene's got it. Okay, they want to measure what people think. Okay, they want to get feedback. They want to basically improve their service and ultimately get more customers and make more money. Check their quality. Perfect. Lots of good answers there. If you have a look, quick scan through here, the questionnaire asks about 3 parts of the hotel, like 3 physical sections of the hotel. Can you find them for me? What are the 3 parts of the hotel that are mentioned here? So I'm not going to read it for you. I'm going to let you read yourself. We've got the facilities, okay? We've got the room. Okay, good. So we've got the room. How was your room? Question 2. Did you use the gym, the facilities? And one more, which is the restaurant. Sheila's got all 3, room, gym, restaurant. Well done, Sheila. And we've also got the hotel restaurant. So they've picked, it's a short survey, they've picked what they consider to be the 3 most important things. We've got the room, we've got the gym, and we've got the restaurant. There are also other questions talking about the staff, okay, obviously important. If we go down, there are some other questions here. Would you visit our hotel again? Would you recommend the hotel to a friend? And what other suggestions do you have to improve our service? At the top of the questionnaire here, we've got a nice introduction, and it says, thank you for taking, so I've just got something I can't see. Okay, there we go. Thank you for your visit to our hotel. So we're thanking the visitors. We are explaining, okay, why. Okay, we're giving them this questionnaire because it's going to give us useful information. And we're thanking. We're using polite language. Thank you, please. We hope. It's important for us. So we're setting the tone for the questionnaire with the type of language that we're using. Okay, next. How many questions are there in this questionnaire? Is it a lot of questions? We've got 8, right? Okay. And why do you think there are 8 questions? A number. It is a number. Why do you think it's 8? Just enough. Okay, just enough. Right. Okay. So, yeah, and we want to cover and get enough useful information, but we don't want to overload people with too much, because if we make our questionnaires too long, then people are not going to finish it. They're going to get what we call questionnaire fatigue or survey fatigue. So we're going to get, yeah, we don't want to bore them. So we're going to get enough information, but we're not going to get, we're not going to make people too reticent, or we're not going to make it so that they don't want to fill in the questionnaire for us. That's perfect. Let's move on, okay, to the next activity. So we're going to talk about open and closed questions. And I think this is an important part of the lesson. And it says here, good questionnaires, they use closed questions and open questions. And then it explains. So we answer yes or no to a closed question. So a closed question is one that only gives us 2 choices, yes or no. And we give longer answers to open questions. So we're going to go through and we're going to decide what kind of question we're looking at. All right, so number 1, it says, how was your bus tour? How was your bus tour? So if we ask this question to someone, we are, well, it's an open question. We are able to give many different answers. We could say it was great, it was terrible, it was okay, it was an interesting experience. So really there's not an infinite number, there are many different answers we could give. Can anyone think for me, for question number 1, could you change that into a closed question for me? So how was your bus tour? This is open. Can you change that into a closed question? Edwin's already gone through all of them. Okay, that was very quick. Yeah, there you go. So Fair Ramirez and Alessandra said, did you enjoy the bus tour? Great. So we could choose to have a similar question in a closed format. Did you enjoy the bus tour? And actually, it would have a different purpose, wouldn't it? So if we said, did you enjoy the bus tour? We would only have 2 answers, yes or no. So from that, we would be able to work out a percentage of how many people enjoyed the bus tour. Why do you think this is an open question rather than a closed question? Let's see if you have any opinion about that. Okay, so Venice says we get more specific feedback, right? So we're going to find out more, like whether we just say, did you enjoy it? Yes or no. Okay, as I say, we just get a percentage. But by asking this open question, we're going to get a lot of different answers. So we're going to find out perhaps more information. Yeah, we might get be able to explore more about what we're thinking. However, there is perhaps a drawback to that. Like, to start with, people might misunderstand the question. People might give you information which is maybe irrelevant to you, something you don't want. So we have to be a little bit careful, especially with something like a hotel where we're expecting perhaps people in the hotel who might not speak English very well. So we need to be careful when we're thinking about the type of question. Will people understand it, and will we get the information we want? So do we just want to know a percentage, or do we want to know a variety of answers? What we could do for this open question, how was your bus tour? What we could do is we could give them some options, couldn't we? So we could choose some options. So we could say, for example, it was excellent. Okay. We could say it was good. It was okay. It was, I didn't, it was not up to my expectations. So we could pick some answers for them to have. Okay. And this will kind of guide them a little bit. So it's still an open question, but we're limiting their responses. Just in your opinion, if we are going to offer them choices, how many choices do you think would be a good idea for this kind of survey? So do we want to give them 2 choices, 4, 10? Okay, Edwin says 4. Xu Ying says 5, 3. Right. Okay. So yeah, I think in general, generally people seem to offer maybe 5, right? Okay, Mark Ritchie says in Likert scale, right? So I think 5 is common, okay, or 7 is also common. It's often an odd number, and the reason it's often an odd number is that people often want to go in the middle. Okay, but there we go. But that also offers its own problem, that if everyone goes in the middle, then you're not really learning very much about it. And if people don't have a strong opinion, then they might just go in the middle. But this is something that we need to think about. Okay, let's go through and have a look at some of the other questions. So number 2, did the tour guide answer all your questions? This is closed. It's just yes or no. Right. How about question number 3? Were all of our staff polite and helpful? So what do we think? Is this an open or closed questions? Were all the staff polite and helpful? It's closed. Perfect. Okay, there we go. Yes or no? Did you book your holiday online? Open or closed? This one is also closed. Okay, yes or no? Did you? Yes, I did. No, I didn't. Number 5, how easy was our website to use? Open or closed? Okay, so number 5, this is an open question. And this might be a good place, as we mentioned earlier, putting a scale. So we might want to put a 5-point scale. Okay, it was extremely easy to use. It was easy, quite easy, not very easy, very difficult. Okay, and that is going to help. And actually, we would probably want to add another option there, which is, well, can anyone guess? How easy was our website to use? So we've gone from very easy to very difficult. There's another possibility there. What would we need to add for question 5, as well as the scale? One more thing. Maybe some people were thinking, well, I didn't Exactly, Edwin, well done. I did not use it. So to make an effective questionnaire, we need to make sure that that is an option. I did not use the website, because if we don't have that there, we're going to get inaccurate data, because someone who didn't use the website is going to have to answer it and they're going to have to click on something. So yeah, NA or I did not use the website. We're going to get the false results. We're going to get compromised data. How about number 6? Did you use the hotel, swimming pool and gym? What do we think? Did you use it? This is a closed question. Perfect. Number 7, would you recommend this holiday to your friends? Would you recommend? And this is a closed question, yes or no. And what other suggestions can you make so we can improve our service? The last one, question 8, this is going to be an open question. So we've done our answers here. We can go through and we can check to see if we had them right, and we have got all of the answers correct. Okay, very well done. So this exercise is going to give our students a good understanding of the difference between an open and a closed question. Okay, let's move on to the next exercise. Next exercise is a bit more analysis of the model that we've got. And if you just have a quick look at that, can you tell me, does this questionnaire, does it have a mixture of open and closed questions? So have a look there. Is there a mixture? Can you see both types there? Okay, we can. What was your reason for visit? This is open. Okay, how was your room? Open. This is open. Now, number 4 and number 5, did you? Okay, these ones we can see. Okay, these ones are closed questions. Next question. How does it ask for more information after a closed question? So I think this is very important in a questionnaire. So we ask a closed question and then we want to get a bit more information, right? So how does it do that? How does the questionnaire, it asks a follow-up question. There we go. And the follow-up question here, it says, if yes, how would you describe the facilities, right? So they answer the question. If they put no, they can move on. If they put yes, then they're gonna answer the follow-up question. Okay, so this is really important to make sure that we're getting the right information from the relevant people. Okay, that's great. And obviously, you know, if we had more time, we could go in and we could analyze this further, but that's the basic analysis that I want to talk about. Here we go. Next, we've got an activity which is actually looking at responses. Okay, so questions and responses. So this is going to help students later on when they're actually answering questionnaires. We're not going to do all of this, but we'll just have a look at a couple of them. These are also sample question types that they could use in their own survey. So we've got, how would you rate? Okay, how would you rate your tour? Let's see. Can anyone find the answer for that? How would you rate your tour? Overall, very good. Okay, so let's click on there. Okay, and it will draw us a line. Okay, let's do another one. How did you find out about this tour? What do we think is the answer to that? How did you find out about this tour? Through a friend. Okay, so let's click down there. Okay, there we go. And we can see, we can go through and we can do these answers. So yeah, as I said, there's 2 reasons we're doing this. Firstly, we're giving model questions. Okay. Was the okay, so was the tour guide knowledgeable? Okay, was the waitress or waiter, was the wait person friendly? Okay, we can adapt these into other questions. So these are model questions and model answers that we can use. All right, we don't have time to do all of them. Okay, so we're going to move over into the next activity. So once we'd gone through all that analysis, it would then be, the point of this lesson is to get students to actually write their own questionnaire. We can see 3 here. We've got passengers at an airport, customers at a restaurant, visitors at a sports center. And students have an opportunity to choose which one of these they would like to write a questionnaire about. I would like you to type into the chat box now, airport, restaurant, or sports center. So which one of these 3 would you like to write a questionnaire about? Airport, restaurant, or sports center? Restaurant. We've got two people who've gone for restaurant. Airport, restaurant. 3 for restaurant, 4 for restaurant. Airport, 3 for airport. Restaurant, airport. Okay, no one's going for sports center, restaurant and airport. I can see from your answers that the most popular answer is restaurant. Okay, so let's go over and do a new share. and we're going to go on to the internet. Where is it? There it is. Okay, and that is not the page I want to show you. Here it is. This is the page that I wanted to show you. So we're going to go. Most of you said restaurant. I guess that you'd say restaurant because people love talking about food. So what we're going to do, I'm now on a website called Padlet, okay? And we're going to use Padlet to work collaboratively to brainstorm and to write some questions for a questionnaire given by a restaurant to customers who have had a meal in their restaurant, okay? So I've got 2 sample questions. So the first one here, it says, did you enjoy your meal? This is a closed question, you can see here. And I've got a follow-up question, why or why not? Okay. That's one possible question. I'm not saying it's the best question to ask, it's just one that I've put there. I've also asked an open question. What could we do to improve your dining experience? This is an open question and there's no follow-up because it's an open question. Okay, so these are the 2 questions that I've put here. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do, Andrew has just put into the chat box the link to this Padlet. So if you click on that link, you will be taken to this Padlet. Okay, so if you click on it, you'll be able to come over onto the Padlet. And what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to ask you to add some questions. So if you can see in the bottom right, there is a pink plus button. So if you hit that plus button, then I want you to write a question. Because there are so many of you, I am going to have to approve your questions. So I can see your questions coming in. If I like the question, or if the question is a good one, or if the grammar is correct, I'm going to approve it. So I've got one here. It said, did you like the service given by the wait staff? I'm going to approve it. Okay, and there we go, it's in. Okay, if you could also put maybe if it is open or closed, that would be good. Okay, did you enjoy our service today? Okay, I'm going to approve it. Okay, would you recommend eating here? Would you recommend eating here to your friends and family with a question mark? I'm going to approve it. Okay, and as I approve them, let me see, what main course did you like the most? Okay, open. And then why or why not? Okay, I'm going to approve it. What make you feel the most comfortable? Okay, so I think that question, whoever's writing about that one, what makes you feel the most comfortable? Start with it, there's a grammar mistake, but we also need to think about, yeah, the question itself, like how are they going to answer that? Were your orders served on time? Okay, I'm going to approve it. Okay, which food did you like best? Did you like the interior design at the restaurant? Interesting. Okay, are there desserts? Okay, we've got a lot of questions coming in here. Okay, I'm going to delete some because we've got too many. Okay, so don't worry. Okay, if I delete your question, okay, that it doesn't matter. Okay, thank you for participating. What would you like to see on our menu in the future? Very nice. I'm going to approve that one. Did you enjoy the food? Okay, we've got one similar, so I'm going to delete it because we've already got one that's almost the same. Was there enough variety in the menu? Why or why not? Okay, I'm going to approve it. Okay, I'm just going to delete a few more. So I'm going to ask you, okay, can you stop? Okay, I'd like you to stop typing questions because I think we've got enough. Okay, I'm just going to delete a few more. Okay, there we go. Let me delete a few more. So please stop writing questions now. Just going to delete these ones which we've got. Here we go. Let me approve that one. Okay, let's delete that one. Delete that one. Delete that one. Okay, good. So that I think we've got plenty of questions, right? The next thing that I want you to do, I'm going to approve that one actually, about cleanliness. I think that's useful. So what I'd like you to do next, okay, we go through the questions. And some of you are already putting answers in. Okay, that's good. And what I'd like you to do is, can you see on my screen now, there's a thumbs up and a thumbs down. So I want you to scroll down the list of questions that we've got here. If you think the question is good, I want you to put a thumbs up. And if you think it's not so good, I want you to put a thumbs down. Okay, and I want you to read all the questions and just give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Okay, and then from that, we're going to choose perhaps the 8 questions that we feel, 6 to 8 questions which we feel are the best ones to put into our survey. Okay, so just read them, thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay, don't worry, don't give everything a thumbs up, because then they will all be the same. Okay, so just if you think it's a relevant question, a good question, try to remember what other questions you've already read. Okay, I'm going to give you another minute or so, okay, because I can see actually we've got a lot at the top, so you're obviously going down because I can see basically the ones at the top are getting more votes. So make sure you go all the way to the bottom. I like someone's putting in some answers. Would you recommend eating here to your friends and family? Surely I would. Very nice. Okay, I've got lots of suggestions here. What could we do to improve your dining experience? More trained staff, trying new menu, variety. Yeah, more variety. Be innovative with the dishes, right? Innovation in the kitchen. All right, so I'm just going to give a few more seconds and then I'm going to go through. Okay, so I'm going to take some of these out. Okay, I'm sorry if this is your idea, I apologize, but I'm just going to delete some. So the dessert one has not got many votes, so I'm going to delete it. Okay, the customer service one doesn't have a lot of votes. So I'm going to delete that one. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, enough variety. That one's going as well. Okay, there was a grammatical mistake in that one, so maybe that's why people didn't like it. Were your orders served on time? This one's only got 22. Okay, interior design. It's interesting that that one is not getting so many votes. So I think that's one that I would like to keep in, but I'm going to take it out because it hasn't got many votes. All right, so this one also is going out. Okay, how many have we got now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've now got 8 questions. Okay, so let's have a look. So this is our survey. We've got 8 questions. Number 1, did you enjoy your meal? What could we do to improve your dining experience? Did you like the service given by the wait staff? Oh, we've got 2 for service. Okay, I have to take that one out. What would you like to see in our menu in the future? Another one on sale. I'm going to take that one out as well. Okay. Would you recommend eating here to your friends and family? And how do you rate the restaurant in terms of cleanliness? Okay. So we've gone through. Okay. I've done it by your votes. Okay. And then we've got our list of questions. So this is something really nice, collaborative you can do. We've just done it with, I don't know how many people we've got here. We've probably got.
Can you screen share?
Sorry?
Can you screen share, Will? We're looking at your video, not the screen.
Oh, really? Okay. Yes, I can screen share for you. Thank you for telling me. Okay, we'll go back into Google. There we go. So we've got 200 people here, and even with 200 people, we've collaboratively managed to make a survey. And then from that, what we could do, we could then put students into groups. They could improve on it. Okay, they could work on it. They could tailor it to make it more interesting for themselves. And we could get students to to maybe do a demo. Okay, they could work with a partner, they could pretend they've gone to a restaurant and they could ask and answer the questions. Another thing that we could do with Padlet like this, as your questions were coming in, I was actually I was checking them, okay, and I was deleting them. So something that I could do here, if we want to practice writing questions, I could actually, in the comment, when you put your question, I could put in the comment, I could say there's a grammar mistake, or, I could tell you what was wrong with it, and then you would be able to edit it and correct it. So the students would be able to do that. So this is quite a nice way of collaborating online, okay, together, working together, okay, to get you know, or you could peer edit. You could get students themselves to comment on other people's questions to try and get them correct. There's a lot we could do with this kind of resource. Okay, now I am going to now go back into my PowerPoint. Okay, so just give me a second to go back and find that. Before we do that, okay, I know I'm not sharing anything. You can just look at me for a minute. You know, as an extension to this activity, I think something that would be really nice would be if you know, if you can, if you're able to in your country, if this is for adult students, we could actually ask students to go to a restaurant, so they could work in a group. They could actually go to a restaurant, they could have a meal there, okay, they could speak in English, okay, and after they had the meal, as their homework, they could actually fill in that survey, okay, the questionnaire. They could actually answer it themselves, and then in the next class they could come back together and they could compare what they'd written, they could discuss it, okay, and they could see what, you know, what they all thought about the restaurant. Another thing that you could do, especially here in Singapore, if you're in a country where English is used, you can actually get them to write to the restaurant. They could write an email to the restaurant offering some feedback and see what, you know, see if they get a response from the restaurant. You know, writing to companies, writing to businesses. Sometimes you even get offer for, you know, maybe they'll get a discount for the next meal or something. So, you know, there's lots of kind of extensions we could do. If you're in lockdown, okay, and you can't go out to restaurants, what they could do, they could perhaps pick a restaurant that does delivery, and they could, you know, in a group, all four of them could order once in the week. They could order something, the same thing maybe from that particular restaurant, okay, on Deliveroo or Food Grab or whatever you've got, and then they could, you know, the questionnaire could be tailored to the delivery of the food and the food itself, and then they could again share their ideas next lesson. So this is a way that we can make this into a real life task. So rather than just making it something hypothetical, we can actually get them to do something real, and it makes it much more personal and much more relevant to them and more interesting, I think. Okay, let's go back into my PowerPoint. Okay, and we're going to go back into the slideshow. Okay, here we go. So basically, to wrap up, I want to talk a little bit. I want to circle back to what we talked about earlier. So earlier we were talking about divergent and convergent thinking. So we looked at two types of questions: open questions, and open questions really, they give a wide range of possible answers, which means there are a few restrictions. So when we ask open questions to people, we are requiring them to use divergent thinking because there's a wide range of possible answers. So basically, open questions are divergent. And it makes sense because the verb diverge, it means to divide, right? Or to get bigger, to increase, which leads us to many possible answers. And as John said on Tuesday, sometimes this kind of question prevents our students from giving or from having ideas because there's very little guidance or very little support, which is why in a survey, in a questionnaire, as we discussed earlier, it's often a good idea to give students, to give the people answering the survey, to give them some choices, okay, to help them to answer the question. Okay, if I gave you a question like, what's the best thing about teaching? Okay, now that kind of question is quite difficult to answer. And a lot of people would think, well, there's so many things I could say. So if we give them some suggestions, okay, satisfying, I can help my students, it's interesting. If we give them some ideas, then this will mean that they will be able to use those ideas to then apply to themselves and come up with something else. So often with open questions, because it's divergent thinking, we often want to give them some help, okay, by suggesting something, some guidance. For closed questions then, so this obviously requires a narrow range of answers, right? Well, it's yes or no in this case. And closed questions are divergent because they're requiring this limited number of responses. this also makes sense because when we are talking about converging, okay, converging means to come together, right? It means to meet or come together. They come from far apart, they come closer to a single point or a single answer. John told us on Tuesday that people are often more creative when they can think inside the box. In this case, when they have a clear idea to start with. So if we ask a question like, is teaching English a satisfying job? Teachers will be able to say, yes, it is, and then they will be able to think about why. So in this case, they could elaborate on why teaching English is a satisfying job, because we're already giving them that start, especially when you're talking in a foreign language. It's more difficult to think of ideas. So we're giving them the support and the scaffolding they need to give an answer. So how can this help with your everyday teaching? There are a couple of things really. I think when we're in the classroom every day and we're talking to our students or online, we need to make sure that we're asking them a mix of open and closed questions. And when we're using open questions, we should also consider giving them some options or some suggestions to help them answer the question. When we're using closed questions in the classroom, we're going to focus students' attention on something. So it's kind of like a leading question in a way. And then we're going to let them elaborate. So again, this will help them with generating ideas. So I just wanted to link the open and closed questions with what John did, the divergent and convergent thinking. Yeah, so just to wrap up. So today we were talking about the LIFE program. And this is, as I mentioned, for young adult and adult students. It's a 6-level integrated skills series with grammar and vocabulary. It's a general English program, and it is full of amazing National Geographic content, National Geographic video, and engaging topics, which are going to help students to become informed decision makers. There's a very strong critical thinking element in here. I'm going to put my final poll up on the screen now. If you would like to get some more information about the LIFE program, please click yes right now, and we will contact you and give you some more information about it. Just to mention one more time, Mr. John Hughes is one of the authors of this program, which is why we were so lucky to have him in the webinar on Tuesday. This program really teaches our students, as well as English, it teaches them how to communicate effectively, teaches them critical thinking, and it teaches them how to apply themselves and get ready to take part in the global community. Tagline for LIFE is connect with the world and bring your classroom to life. We are going to send you a certificate of participation. So tomorrow we are going to send a follow-up email to you, which will contain links to the video recording of this session and a short survey. Okay, please take the survey. At the end of the survey, you will find the certificate. As you're doing the survey, you may take a look at that and think about the lesson today and think about if we have applied the principles that we talked about in today's lesson. Are there open and closed questions there? Yeah, please remember that this email will come to you tomorrow afternoon, okay? Tomorrow afternoon. And make sure you check your junk mail because it may be in there. All right. It's 10:58. We've got 2 minutes left. Timekeeping was good today. Are there any questions that you would like to ask me?
There's a couple in the Q&A box, Will.
Couple in the Q&A. Whether the indicators that measure a question are said to be quality. I'm not sure I completely understand this question. Let me come back to that one. Let me look at the other one first. How can we make our closed questions to let our students think critically? Well, Anjali, sort of as I mentioned earlier on, I think when we ask a closed question, we're kind of leading them to a particular thing that we want them to talk about. So once we find out if that, if they say yes, the key is to then ask a follow-up question. And perhaps the reason we ask that closed question is that we don't want to ask an irrelevant question, right? So we can't ask someone, did you enjoy your trip to Australia? Unless we ask them first, have you been to Australia? So, obviously, we often use the closed question to find out that critical piece of information, and then we follow it up with more questions. I'm just looking at the first question. I'm sorry, I don't really understand. Andy, could you rephrase that question for me? I'm afraid I don't quite understand what the question is. So I'm unable to answer that one at the moment. While I'm waiting for that, okay, let's just go on. So I'm going to stop the poll here. So we've got a lot of you would like to hear information. So we will follow that up with you. Okay, so we've got 89% would like to know more. Yeah, please make sure you take a note of our upcoming webinars. So the next one we have, I believe, is Mr. Andrew Tiffany, who I'm sure many of you know. This will be on the 9th of December. And Andrew is doing something close to his heart. He's going to be looking at a maths article, or math, and it's going to be looking at different, I think, is it comparing? Is that right, Andrew?
Yeah, that's right.
And this is from Reach Higher.
It is indeed.
Okay, thank you very much. Perfect. I've got a question here from Edwin about using Padlet. For professionals and academic purposes, can Padlet be used as a mode of gathering information? Yes, Edwin, absolutely. And I think that actually on their website, they have a lot of sample Padlets to give you ideas of how to use it. And yeah, that's one of the ways they suggest. It's a really good way of collecting information because if you need to get information from a lot of people, you can put the questions there, just give them the link, everyone can go in and answer it. You can put in the settings so you can choose exactly what people can do, whether they can, for example, create new questions or whether they can just comment. So if you just give them the permission just to comment, they can do that. You can do it two ways. You can have it so it's anonymous. You can also do it so that you can see who has who's posted which comment. So yeah, it's a very good way of gathering information. How do we test the quality of an open question? Okay, so that's a good question. So how do we test the quality of an open question? I think, to a certain extent, you find out the quality after you get some feedback on it. So a lot of the time when you're working with questionnaires and with surveys, there is a bit of trial and error. So my advice would be to put the question there, obviously think as carefully as you can, and do the survey. And you'll really see from the feedback that you get whether the question was useful or not. So you'll see two things. Firstly, were people giving you the answers that you expected or that you wanted? If they're not, what I mean by that, not that they're saying it's not good when you wanted them to say it was good. If they're misinterpreting the question, then you need to reword the question to make sure they understand it. What I'd also recommend, if you are doing real questionnaires, before you send out the questionnaire, you should test it. So test it on your colleagues, test it on some people who are not related to not in your company. Try and test it on the type of people who will be answering it, and in that way you're going to get a bit of feedback before you actually do the questionnaire. But on the whole, I think it's when you get the feedback you can generally tell if the question was good or not. Aside from Padlet, can you recommend other engaging websites or applications to ensure exchange of questions disappeared, to exchange information simultaneously in class? Aside from Padlet, what other websites could we use? I think like things like Google Classroom or Google Meet. Okay, you could use for that. I don't tend to use a lot of different websites for that. Perhaps in the chat box, has anyone got any ideas for that? So any Any websites that any people are using to exchange ideas simultaneously online? Has anyone been using a similar thing to Padlet? I wonder if anyone could answer in the chat box. So I've been basically using Padlet most of the time, Vanessa. Yeah, Gay says Google Forms. Yeah, so I thought Google would probably have something. There we go. Sam says Microsoft Teams. Thanks everyone, you're helping me out, because to be honest, I haven't used either of those. Oh yes, Menti. That's thank you, Jean, for reminding me. So Menti is a great way of doing that as well. Mentimeter. You can do things like brainstorms live. It's really good. Like you can type their answer and they all appear on the screen. So yeah, Menti would be another one that I recommend, one that I've used before. Okay, all right, and okay, so we're a little bit past time. Okay, so I'm going to wrap things up here. So yeah, thank you everyone for attending. I hope that you will sign up for our upcoming webinar, Andrew's webinar. I'm sure it will be a fantastic session. Last thing I'm going to do is remind you, please, to join us on social media. So you can find us on Facebook, ELTNGL Asia. Please go there and follow us and find out what's going on, what we've got upcoming. You can find us on WeChat, and you can also find us on YouTube. So yes, thank you very much. I'm going to stay on for a few minutes longer, just to check if there are any more questions, but I'm going to stop the recording here. So yes, thank you very much for joining us.